Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye. Let's get to the intro. Welcome back to Gunners Collective TV. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. As you can tell, I got the goggles on, so I mean business, right? That and my eyesight is blurry this morning, right? But anyways, we're going to get into some things right here concerning Jaime Osuna. Yes, the Bakersfield killer, the mass murderer. I call him mass murderer because he only killed a couple people, but he did it massively, right? You know, a lot of people have done videos about Jaime Osuna from Bakersfield, who actually is a convicted killer doing life. I don't know if he has the possibility of parole, but he's one of the people on earth that I'm like, hey, I don't know, man. You should keep his ass. Go ahead and evaluate that dude every year and just go ahead and keep him. Tack a year on, give him year on, year off, because that author right there is different, right? But he's in the limelight again. You know, if you guys recall, Jaime Osuna is one of the most brutal killers ever to come from Bakersfield, California. And he literally killed a woman with a pair of scissors. When they found the woman at the motel room that he's convicted of his initial killing, she had a pair of scissors stuck in her. I mean, it was just gruesome, too gruesome to speak on, right? But when he was in Corcoran prison, they sold him up with the guy, Luis Romero, who was only there for 2 days. And what happened was more gruesome than probably any killing that's ever took place in CDC history. We're talking about necklaces made out of body parts, beheadings, you know, screams and things I can't speak on. You know, I've actually seen the actual crime scene photo back in the days, and I can tell you right now, I've never seen anything like it. It was different. And I've been present when things have happened that were pretty violent and vicious in the California prison system. But this right here takes the cake. So before we get into it, hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I'm kicking. And I appreciate the support, man. I'm very humbled by it. So I wanted to read you an article because the only way to get into the content, right? Because this is a gruesome content, is to read the article of what's going on. So Luis Romero, let me give you a little backstory, was placed in a cell with Jaime Osuna after Jaime Osuna was already, pretty much everybody in that system knew, everyone in that facility knew, in that building, that he was supposed to be alone. He had no cellie. He acted out violently, was caught with weapons, had assault on correctional officers. I mean, was just an individual that you pretty much wanted to steer clear of. Was only 145 pounds soaking wet, didn't look like much. A dude with a whole bunch of quacked-ass tattoos on his face, pretty much a J-Cat. Pretty much what you would consider a J-Cat, someone who acted on impulse, but at the same time, pretty much did what he said he was going to do. So was it the officers wrong for placing someone in his cell? Or did they just do it because there was no other bed space? You know, sometimes I've seen situations where I've told stories in the past. You know, I was in Tracy prison and there was a guy that was coming from High Desert at the time, and he was coming down for a court case. He was a lifer, man. He was supposed to be single cell. They decided for whatever reason to put him in a cell, give him a cellie after he told him repeatedly, hey, I'm not supposed to be in there. I'm not supposed to have a cellie. If I go in there with the cellie, this is what I'm going to do. They said, yeah, whatever. And so he went in there and did his thing. He was my next door neighbor. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, you know, never have I ever, right, heard someone say the things he said and been in his cell and had to be settled with the guy like that or took flight immediately, or at least tried to get the fuck up out of there. But, you know, it worked out the way it worked out. So I've seen situations. Now, again, with Jaime Osuna, there's variables there. You know, a lot of people, when this guy, you know, Luis Romero was placed in the cell and was beheaded, there was a lot of people that were mad, especially the family, his mother, who took a stance and rode with her son or rode for her son ever since this happened. Now, this happened in 2019, I believe, when he was beheaded in the cell, and she believes there was some negligence, you know, that the officers knew what was going on. Oh, Chucky just fell on me. Even Chucky don't want no part of fucking Jaime Osuna. And that's great. Let me go throw Chucky up here. Really, Chuck. You're possessed, right? Anyways, she knew, everybody knew that Jaime Osuna should have been sold alone, but for some reason or another, her son got placed there. Now, I'm not a fool. Been locked up in prison half my life, so I understand sometimes they're just going to put dudes wherever they put them. They bend the rules a little bit. Hey, who are you to tell the correction officers what they're going to do that day? They're not there for you to tell them shit. They're there to tell you shit, right? Anyways, just recently, the mother who still stood 10 toes down and believes her son was placed in danger purposely and that there was a lot of rules that were bent and broken that led up to his demise, has spoken out, has went and is basically suing these 4 officers and the CDCR and trying to get some get backs for her son. Now, I don't blame her. I don't blame her, man. This was something supernatural. This was different. It wasn't like he was just put in a cell and got beat up a little bit or got stabbed up. This guy was literally torn apart. And Jaime Osuna, like I said, had priors, but that don't mean nothing, man. I've seen guys that probably have done worse stuff than Jaime Osuna on paper that were celled in with people. Now, it's not easy to get a single man cell. You don't just ask for it and get it. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that you have to do. I've seen dudes that have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, hey, homie, 10 bodies, right? And still not have single cell status. Then I've seen a guy that catches one body and gets it, man. It's unfortunate. My ear itches today. Earwax. You ever did that? Well, I'm doing it on camera. I don't give a fuck, right? So let me read this article that was put out because the mother had went to court and got a moral victory at least, because in the beginning she said that these 4 officers were negligent and that they could have prevented this. Okay, and these were the four officers that were actually working the building when this crime took place. She got a good moral victory, like I said the other day in court, because she has switched up her story. And most of the time when you switch your story up, they throw it out. Like, man, hey, you can't be fucking switching your story up. But the judge, I'm sure, heard the details, and the devil is in the details, and decided that for whatever reason, she was going to get some action back. Now, remember, this is all based upon what Jaime Osuna did to her son in that prison cell. And again, I don't even say privileged, man. Unfortunately, I seen the actual pictures of the crime scene, and it was ridiculous. I deleted that from my phone years ago. This was years ago when I first did my first video on Jaime Osuna and what happened in that cell. And then I'm going to read you this, and then we'll double back into what exactly happened. So a federal judge Monday denied prison guards' latest request to dismiss a lawsuit filed in the wake of the killing and dismemberment of a California inmate. Dora Solores, the mother of deceased inmate Luis Romero, sued several people after Jaime Osuna was accused of killing her son while sharing a prison cell. 4 of the defendants are correction officers Brian Gallimore, Jesse Garcia, Leonel Pena, and Luis Silva, whom Solores claims failed to summon medical help the night her son died. Romero died in March 2019, 2 days after he was transferred to Corcoran State Prison. Solores says Osuna, his cellmate, desecrated her son's body. That doesn't even tell you half of it. The suit filed in 2020 has hit some stumbling blocks. Sitting by designated U.S. District Attorney or District Judge Lee Rosenthal in February granted a motion to dismiss, ruling the Osuna's violent nature and the presence of a forbidden bedsheet in the cell favored a claim of failure to protect, but not failing to summon medical care. However, the judge gave Solores the chance to amend her suit, which she did, right? She amended it, changed it. The Fifth Amendment complaint filed weeks after the judge's decision passed muster on Monday. In her new complaint, Solera states that the bedsheet restricting the officer's view into the cell violated prison rules. She also argues the guards could hear violent noises from the cell overnight, hear other inmates talking about the violence, and that Osuna had a history of extreme violence. And Solera alleges that given these facts, Silva, Pena, Gallimore, and Garcia knew or should have known that Romero needed medical attention, and they failed to reasonably summon the care he needed. Okay, so background. When he is placed in this cell, okay, there was a lot of different stories going around. One of the stories that was going around was that during his coming into R&R now, when he got to R&R, and this is an SNY yard. This was an SNY yard where he went, right? When he was coming through R&R, he got into it with the correction officer. And, and I've always told people, the last thing you want to do in prison is get an attitude or take an aggressive stance or get in an argument or go against the grain when it comes to the K9, the COs. Because ultimately they have power over you. They have power of where they're going to place you. They have power over your food, your water, your communication. I mean, everything. You can be that man. You can be that active gangster. You can be whatever you think you are, but you're not going to go against the gun. Okay, they ultimately have power. Now, there are situations where dudes get that upset that they get off on the COs. I've seen it, heard about it. But in most situations, people understand if you don't rock the boat won't sink, right? So what you usually do when you're coming through R&R is you take direction. You listen. You know, you pay attention. Why is my ear sticking out like I'm a nerd or something, right? Let me go ahead and tuck it and say, fuck it. I don't need these glasses anymore anyways. I can see now. So anyways, when you come out of R&R, man, you should be able to already have built your communication between you and that CO, and you know where you're going, what cell they're placing you in. You didn't get an attitude. Well, what people are saying is that Luis Romero copped an attitude. He got in an argument with the CO. So there was a lot of people saying he was placed in Jaime Osuna's cell as payback. As, okay, you want to fuck with me? Watch what I do. I'm going to stick you with the most craziest J-Cat in the facility. Now, I don't think the COs expected what happened next, but I'm sure and I believe they expected there to be some type of friction or some type of incident to take place. Now, I've been in prison plenty of times, man, and the using of bed sheets to block the door happens for two reasons most of the time, right? One of the reasons is if you're taking a bird bath, you know, and me being on level 4s and level 3s, I had a strict rule against it. You're not going to fucking ever be in that cell near the toilet with a sheet. And the reason being is, first of all, I'm not a fucking weirdo. I'm not going to look at you while you're taking a shit, right? Or taking a bird bath. I'm not Diddy, right? But the main reason being is because even though you're my cellie and we're solid, anything is possible. You could be on that toilet doing a drop, acting like you're taking a bird bath. Next thing you know, that sheet slides back and you got a piece in your hand and I'm unprepared, right? So anyone who's been on level 4, level 3 would tell you the same thing. Like in my cell, there was different type of rules and regulations. Like, bro, if you're taking shit, the sheet better be like this and I better be able to get ready. But as far as blocking the cell visual from, you know, from outside, you know, that right there is an indication that something's wrong in that cell. There's something private, and you are not afforded any privacy when it comes to prison, especially from the COs. They need to be able to not have their view obstructed at any point in time. So for them to have a sheet up all night, blocking the vision and count time, there's a lot of cops that walk around at night. They're constantly walking, doing their little fucking walks, right? Making sure that, you know, I remember reading late night in my cell, you know, because that's the only time you really have time to yourself. Because when I was acting, man, I was too busy fucking doing burpees or doing mini riding or going out to the yard or whatever I was preparing for that day. I was active and I was functioning. I was programming. But at night, once you're able to unroll your mattress, once everything is settled down after 10 p.m., that's your time. That's me time. Me. It's all about me, right? And that's when you can break open the Louis L'Amour book or the Jackie Collins and get your on. I'm just saying. But I remember pretty vividly, man, every night, no matter where I was at, the cops doing their rounds. And even if it was a count time, they boom, peek in with their light just to make sure people are breathing in there, just to make sure that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. If you have anything obstructing their view, whether it's paper or pictures, and because that's what people usually would put on their cell doors in the window, they'll put paper or whatever. They'll tell you, hey, they'll bang on your door. They don't give a fuck if your cellie's sleeping, if you're sleeping. None of that matters at all. One thing about COs is they're loud as hell. They're not trying to be quiet and tiptoe so you can sleep. Ooh, what are you going to do, right? Boom, boom, boom. They'll wake the whole theater up. Hey, take that shit down. We got to be able to see in there. And then, of course, people are not going to get mad on the cop. They're going to get mad at you like, hey, bro, why are you fucking drawing attention? And man, my cellie was trying to sleep. That's how it goes. So for them to have a sheet up all night obstructing the view, that was kind of fishy. And I could understand why, you know, Luis Romero, the victim's mother, is bringing that up in court. You know, there's no way these cops walked by these COs and didn't say something about the sheet. Now, allegedly, according to the investigators and what happened was Luis Romero was placed in that cell. Should have never been placed in that cell, they're saying, because they're saying at the time Jaime Osuna was on a cell alone. Now, I don't know if that's the case or not. If there's a chrono saying he was supposed to be celled alone, them cops are in big trouble because they violated the integrity and the rules of security of that institution. If a man is supposed to be alone, he's supposed to be alone for a reason. And albeit, man, the cops are going to do whatever the hell they want to do and put you wherever they want to put you. Still, that right there, if she could show, the mother can show, hey, he was supposed to be alone, but they chose to override that for whatever reason. She has action. She has action at a lawsuit. But whatever, he was placed in that cell. Upon being placed in that cell, I don't know if Jaime Osuna said anything. I don't know if Jaime Osuna just J-catted out and got into a trance. But the history of this person and what he has said in the past of what he would do to people, I would be pretty leery about the guy. I did a short one time. It was just a comedic short. And I said, man, if I'm ever placed in a cell with him, I'm hitting him in the head with a sopa, a pico, all kinds of shit. I'm going to do whatever I can. I'm going to tear that locker off the side of the wall and hit him with it. There's no way I would sell it with a guy like that. He's just too crazy. But anyways, Luis Romero does, according to people that were on that tier. I talked to one guy a long time ago, man, that said he was on that tier. I don't know if he was or not, but he gave me a pretty descriptive understanding of what happened that night. There was loud noise when they were fighting. There was a struggle. And of course, Luis Romero, at the end of the day, lost that struggle. He was beheaded. Parts of his body were dismembered. When they did come the next day. Now, you got to mind you, this happened over a night period. All night long. You're meaning to tell me the COs didn't walk by one time, see a bed sheet with blood all over it? Because believe me, I seen the crime scene photos. It was soaked. That whole room was soaked. Bloodbath shit, right? Earmuff your ears if you got the kids right there. It's crazy, right? It was just never seen anything like it. And I'll say this. It's hard for me to believe in a prison setting, having done so much time, that the COs didn't at least hear some aggressive noise coming from that cell and not double back and see what was going on. To me, it seems a situation like it was like, fuck him, whatever. He talked that shit in R&R. Let's see what type of man he is. Let's see who comes out of that motherfucker. Survival to the fittest. Let's see who comes out wearing the lion suit. You know what I mean? Let's see who comes out wearing a lion's head on their head. Who's the winner here? Who's the real warrior? Unfortunately, man, they didn't expect something like this, I'm sure. The next day when that sheet was pulled back, it was a horrific scene. Now, immediately, that draws into question foul play on the cops' part. We already know what fucking Jaime Osuna, there's no denying it. The Vato was wearing a necklace with the guy's ears attached to it. Okay? There was pentagrams and crazy writing. And this guy, I believe, we obviously know he's a nut. He's above and beyond. He's crazy. But I think it's more so because he's such a small dude. He played the role one time and continues to play this role. I've seen a lot of documentaries on him. It seems like Scanti got a hold of him. He was a drug addict on the streets. He went overboard with it and lost his mind. I had a homeboy like that. He was high for like 18 months. True story. Homeboy did some crazy shit. Was running around Merced with a bone in his nose and feathers in his hair. The Vato thought he was Pocahontas. It was crazy. So I've seen people get off that shit and never get backs for a long time. And I believe this is what happened to Jaime Osuna. I believe as a kid, he was mistreated. He had a lot of things going on inside him, and Scanti was a release that drove him mad. Whatever the case may be, he's never denied it. Killing this guy, he's never given a reasoning as to why. Just they put him in my cell, and he was like a rabid animal. Right now, these 4 officers are looking at a mountain to climb. Because like I said, you want me to believe that there was no one that did count time that all night long, or no one that did a drive-by or walk-by to look? You want me to believe that someone with a sheet blocking and obstructing the view of the cell didn't get in trouble? You want me to believe that there was a struggle within the unit with the cops within earshot and they never went to go check? I remember in the youth authority and even in prison sometimes, man, when people would get down or a fight or there was any type of aggression, man, the cops were on it immediately. There was a reason why we called blind spots. You had to go over there to get, so the cops wouldn't see you fight. So it's just a crazy thing, man. Will the mother have action? She's fighting a big fight against CDCR, ultimately. Not a lot of people win when you go in CDCR, but it has happened. The hostilities, the hunger strikes. You can take on CDCR and win. If you're willing to stay vigilant, if you're willing to stand 10 toes down. And obviously this mother is, because she's not playing and she got a victory. The judge seen it her way, so they're going to be able to present that evidence. And to me, it's kind of a cut and dry thing. If they didn't place him in that cell for something bad to happen to him, they knew kind of the situation that was going on. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out, man. As far as Jaime Osuna, It's not going to pay him no, never mind. It's not going to make him no difference. He did what he did, and according to his own words, man, he'd do it again. He's an extremely difficult individual to figure out. He's off the hook, and there never should have been anyone placed in his cell, but I understand that. That I'm not tripping on. You know, when they're like, oh, he was placed purposeful for that one thing to happen to him. I don't know. You can't dictate what the next man's going to do. Another man, you could think he's going to be going crazy. You know, I'm pretty sure the cops like, he's going to go in there and they're going to whip each other's ass. That's it. They didn't think he was going to wake up with no head. I'm just saying. But at the end of the day, man, it doesn't matter to Jaime Osuna because, you know, like his bloodlust and the way he is, or the way the character he displays, it was just a walk in the park for him. Unfortunately for Luis Romero and his family, it's a day they'll never forget. You know, and the mother, I understand her grieving for her son and trying to get some justice, but there has to be a point in time where, you know, as a parent, you don't want to relive that every day. The longer you speak on something, the more it exists. I've noticed that. That's game, man. I'm giving you guys knowledge you can't get in college. I'm giving you guys too much fucking game today. Anyways, with that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Let me know what you think. Do you think the mom's going to win this case, or do you think this is another situation where she's just reaching? You know, I'll tell you right now that what does it for me is that sheet up. There's no way no cop on earth can tell me, and there's correction officers that watch me, man. Old correction officers, current. They know what it is, man. There's no way they're doing a walk by, a cell check, and they don't notice that and now they're tripping on it. For the cops not to trip on it, they were either one, lazy as fuck, too busy fucking doing something to each other, or two, they already knew what time it was. Whatever the case, man, tap in. Let me know what you think. The gun. Bang, bang.